Hi, everyone. Welcome to Com Week, and we're so glad all of you can make it out here tonight. It's going to be a really great night. We have 4 amazing speakers coming up, starting with Rachel, and then followed by Rebecca and Connor, and lastly, we conclude with Jack. So I hope you all have a great night.
Hey, well, first of all, thank you so much for coming, and I have a lot of thank yous to make tonight. It feels kind of very much like family to me tonight because all of the speakers are former students, all of the Com Week task force are former students, and I get to work with them, and it's been such a joy, and then to have such a nice turnout is a wonderful thing. I need to thank Cassie, and I need to thank Tyler for coming and working the table. My video crew, Titan TV came out and they provided some lighting and video, and the Com Week task force, the faculty. Waleed is here, and it's just going to be a wonderful evening. We have Connor Davison's going to be talking about A Fragile Heart. He's going to, the Connor Davison Fan Club. He's reprising a role that he talked about last year on this stage during Com Week, and I hear that I haven't heard the whole speech, but I hear there's going to be a little sequel and a little prequel and some lessons learned, and so that's going to be an interesting presentation. And then we also have Rebecca Wong, who spoke last year as well. And she's going to be talking about believing in the good, something like that. Is that the way it works? Is that it? Yeah, you know, I don't want to use notes. But she's a wonderful speaker, and I'll introduce her proper when it's her turn. But our first speaker took my class last semester, and she is a sales marketing major with a minor in HCOM, and she is currently the vice president of the sales leadership organization. Woohoo! And you got a woohoo. And I hear that she's president-elect. So she's going to be moving up from vice president to president. And she asked if she could do a couple of presentations in my class to promote her sales leadership organization, and I said, absolutely, sure. And as she did it, I was just so impressed by her speaking, and I even looked around the room and to a couple of people that I knew, and I went, she's got to be on our team. And I talked to her about it, and so here she is. And to talk about fairy tales, yeah? Yeah. Please help me in welcoming Rachel Griffin.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm very excited to talk about fairy tales to you all. So the title of my speech is called The Truth Behind Fairy Tales. So growing up, I'm sure we were all told the same thing about fairy tales and about mythological creatures. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, all of these different mythological things, all of these different stories about fairy tales. So let me go ahead and start you with mine. So when I was little, I grew up in a single-parent household for about the first decade of my life. So it was just myself, my mom, and my sister. And she would tell us about Santa Claus, the same story that you guys have all been told. There's this big jolly man, and he goes into your house in the middle of the night, and he delivers the presents on Christmas Eve, so that way on Christmas Day you wake up and you have all of these different things to unwrap. And so my sister and I were just quick to believe that. We're like, okay, yeah, presents, that sounds good to me. So we started to get a little bit more witty, a little bit more understanding. And so what would happen is before Christmas Eve, they would start popping some presents underneath the tree. And we were like, whoa, wait. You told us that these presents were supposed to be delivered on Christmas Eve. So why are there presents now? That doesn't make any sense. That kind of goes against my belief. And so the way that she repositioned our beliefs was she would be like, okay, don't worry about that. I'm actually a helper of Santa's. You know, he has to go all around the world to talk to children, or to deliver presents to children. And so my responsibility is to help him out. So I just basically box the gifts without the gifts actually being in the boxes, and I'll just wrap them and make them look pretty. So that way, when Santa comes, he just has to sprinkle his magic and they're already pre-wrapped for him. So we're like, okay, that sounds good. That now can realign with my beliefs. So the interesting thing about that story was how quick we were to believe, and so wholeheartedly we were to believe that some random guy is going to go ahead and shimmy down a chimney that we didn't even have in our house and deliver presents for us to open up. So how exactly did that happen? And the thing that I think made it so easy for us to believe and so understanding for our small little brains was that we had the beginning, which was the presents and the belief that my mom told us. And then we had the end result, which was the presents underneath the tree, and we unwrapped them on Christmas Day, and it was all good to go. So we were very easy to understand it. It was a pretty simple concept, even though the logic behind it wasn't exactly sound. Again, let me repeat, it's this big 200-pound guy trying to shimmy down a chimney that isn't even there in our household, delivering presents. That doesn't make sense, but you have the beginning, you have the end, connect the dots. Okay, we're good to go. So fast forward a little bit into where we are now when it comes to believing in various things. And you think to yourself, okay, well, I'm supposed to give a presentation today. How am I going to do that? I don't have the skills. I'm not a public speaker. I can't talk. Or I have an exam later on today. I'm completely underprepared. I don't understand how to do this. I just don't believe I can. So how exactly did we get from that point when we were little and we could understand things so wholeheartedly to where we are now, and it becomes so much more difficult, so much more strenuous on ourselves to try and believe in the thing that's been constant your entire life, yourself. And that's the thing that I want to bring up to you guys today. How can we take that childhood innocence and put it into the thing that's been a constant our entire life? How do we take something that is of pure and sound logic? You've been growing up, obviously, with yourself your entire life. You understand that you have these capabilities, you have these strengths, and you're a capable person of performing great things. How do I make that connection? And why is it so difficult to make the connection? And I think one of the reasons is because we're a little bit more aged. We're a little bit more experienced. And that's the great thing about life, is that life comes with aging, and aging comes with maturity. But there is a downside to it, and that means that those bad experiences that we've been exposed to have kind of tainted our view of things. So the one thing that I kind of took away from when I was little and trying to understand Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny, things that really don't make sense, they don't have sound logic, is that it came from somebody that I trusted, and it was something that, again, I had that beginning and I had that end. So now how can we do that? And the thing that I think also makes it difficult for us to believe in ourselves now is that we don't have the end result in front of us. When we're little, we see that Santa Claus is real because there are presents under our tree. But now we see that we want to get, for instance, a good grade in a class, but we don't know if we're gonna get that grade because that's in the future. It's so far ahead of us. And the thing that makes it achievable and attainable is the process and the journey and the experience that you've made in the past and how you can bring that now to the future and make it twofold. We've grown up, again, with ourselves. We've grown to understand our capabilities. We've grown to understand what we can do and how we can make it happen. And you've probably developed a support system somehow, whether it's through your parents, through a mentor, through friendships, whatever it is, and you're able to make it through that journey. And that's the exciting thing about believing, is that you have these other people, this other support system to rely on. It's not just based on yourself. And so the thing that really excites me when I heard about this topic of believing is that It's something that we're all capable of. It's just something that we have to dig deep down within to understand so that we can actually bring it to fruition and we can actually develop something that's so beyond what we originally grasped when we were young, when we had that first idea of Santa Claus is real, and now bringing it forward to I can do whatever I want. That's so inspiring, and that's so awesome to think that every single one of us is capable of doing that, and it's the journey, not the end result, that's going to get us there. It's the friendships, it's the relationships that we've developed amongst each other and amongst our peers that's going to push you into that. And so the awesome thing about believing is that it's not something that you just have to rely on one single thing that you've been told. You have a support system. You have a confident, reliable person that you can go to, again, whether it's your parents, your peers, your mentor, that can be that reaffirming belief for you. You don't have to do it on your own. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about are fairy tales. And with fairy tales, we're usually told the same old story. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And the beginning and middle, they're probably a little bit rocky. And then the end is usually like rainbows and a big wedding and the prince and the princess running off into the distance. And so I think it's predisposed us to think that fairy tales are unrealistic because it ends up so perfectly. And life is not perfect like that. But the thing is, that's not the case. The truth behind fairy tales is that they are real. They are realistic, and even though they're not perfect, they are attainable, just like that belief system that I mentioned before. The truth behind fairy tales is that there is a beginning, there is a middle, but there's not really an end. And that's because it's whatever journey you want to make of it. So if we all had an ending to our fairy tale, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now because that's something that scholars and researchers have been doing for so long, trying to figure out what is the end. What happens after we die? That's just something that we don't know, and that's something that we do need to come to terms with. That's part of the journey, and that's part of the process. But fairy tales are different for every person. That's where I think there's a misunderstanding between what you see in those movies versus how it is portrayed in real life. Fairy tales could be one thing for one person. A fairy tale for one person could be, okay, I grow up in a beautiful household and I'm able to achieve good grades and then I get my dream career and then I make it big. Whereas a fairy tale for somebody else could be completely different. I could be living the fairy tale lifestyle of somebody and it not be my own fairy tale. But the awesome thing about that is that you're able to change it. You're able to align it with something that is that makes more sense to you and that basically aligns with your values and your beliefs. With fairy tales, we have this process and we have this journey that we go through, and it's not going to be rainbows and butterflies the entire time. What the movies portray is the prince and the princess running off into the sunset. But what it doesn't portray is what happens next. Because although it makes it seem like there's an ending, there's really not. Life continues on, and whether you like it or not, other people are going to move on with it. And so the beauty about life is that you have the idea, you have the mindset, and you have the abilities to change it according to how you want it to end up. You have the control of your own fairy tale. And you have that belief and that support system that is going to allow you to achieve those things. I have a mentor, and I was telling him about this speech, and he was kind of just jotting down ideas, and we were brainstorming back and forth. And something that he told me that really resonated with me was that there's no such thing as the perfect fairy tale, not even like the storybook fairy tale. If you've ever heard of a rich man who was born into a rich family and then got a successful career, had a perfect family after that, grew up, and he had a great life, you probably A, have not heard of that story, and B, if you did, you do not care whatsoever, because that's not relatable at all. What he made me understand, and something that I think is a really good takeaway, is that every single person's life is different, and what we don't see are the complications that happen before they get to that successful moment, before they get to that achievement, before they're on stage and at the podium and talking about all these great things they've done. There's a lot of conflict that arises in the midst. And that's just reading between the lines, between the different chapters of our lives. Life is a storybook. Life is a storybook of your own fairy tale. And there's gonna be different chapters that you're going to go through. And they're not always gonna be the most positive or the most inviting thing. But that's what makes life so incredible, is because it allows you to relate to other people. It allows you to say, I understand what you're going through. I can empathize with you. Let's work on this together so that we can all achieve this thing. I believe you can do it, and in so doing, I think I can do it too. It allows us to build those relationships and connections with each other, whereas we otherwise might not have had the opportunity if we lived that quote-unquote fairy tale lifestyle. So one of the key takeaways that I want you guys to have today is just to understand that we have a support system and we have a different set of beliefs for each person, and that's what makes us unique. That's what makes the journey bearable, and that's what makes the journey exciting. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't really want to live a fairy tale lifestyle. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were talking about my career aspirations. And I mentioned, I don't really know what I want to do for my career. I know that I like public speaking, so I guess I can check that off since I'm here tonight. But I don't know specifically the thing I want to do. And I talk to students all the time, and they're like, oh, I'm an accounting major, I want to be an accountant. Or I'm a marketing major, I want to be a brand ambassador, or whatever the case may be. And I just look at them, and I'm just like, I like speaking. Can I find a job in that? But that's what makes it kind of exciting to me, is because now I know in the future, I'm going to be able to tell people of my story, of my journey. And once they see that fairy tale moment of mine and they see it all coming to fruition, I can tell them that I was in their shoes once. I didn't understand what I was doing in college. I didn't know where I was gonna go. Yeah, sure, I've been doing all these things, I've been checking the boxes, but that doesn't mean that I know what to do for the rest of my life. And that's what makes life so exciting, is that one moment you might be doing one thing and you might be on this one path and living that fairy tale lifestyle, something happens and you can completely pivot. Whether that pivot is a good thing or a bad thing in the moment, in the overarching picture, it's going to be a defining moment of who you are. So, a couple key takeaways for you guys, something that I want you guys to understand and to really hopefully take home and find value, is that when it comes to believing, there's never going to be a start and an end all at the same time. It's not going to be Santa Claus and presents. It's going to be the beginning where you're told, you can do this. I believe in you. You can get an A on that test. You can go ahead and sing in front of that crowd, whatever the case may be. I believe in you, whether you're telling that to yourself or you're hearing it from somebody else, and it's the journey that's going to take you there. You might not always know how to get there, but that's okay. That's what the process is for. It's a fake it till you make it mentality sometimes, and honestly, believe me, it does work, but it doesn't have to mean that you know all the answers right away. The other thing that I want you guys to take home is that life is a fairy tale. It might not be the one that you see on TV. It might not be the one that you hear other people talking about, but it is your own, and you're the own character. You're the main character in your story, and you have the opportunity to go out and make things happen. You have the opportunity to believe that you can make things happen and to use other people as a resource, to go out and understand that, hey, what I'm doing is aligning with my goals, and if it's not, pivot. Just do something else. Take that leap of faith. I certainly have done that before. I was working at a company for over a year, and I realized that I wasn't doing the position that I wanted to, and it was a very scary moment, to be honest, because I'm a college student, so you wouldn't really think of it so much, but it was like something that I had invested so much time in, and they had invested so much in me, and it scared me. It scared me to think that this isn't the company, or rather this isn't the position that I can see myself doing, and I don't know how to communicate that. And I had to just believe that it was going to work out. I had to believe that I was going to fill my time with things that were going to bring value to myself and ultimately align me with my goal. So I just want you guys, again, to understand that believing doesn't mean that you're always going to have the answers, but it does mean that you can reach out and find the resources. It means that you can build upon yourself and you can build upon others and you can use those resources to create something that's absolutely magical. That's something different, and that's something creative, and that's something that resonates within you. It doesn't have to be that, quote unquote fairy tale moment. It doesn't have to be you running off into the wind with your prince or princess. It's whatever you find value in and whatever you think you're going to really enjoy in life, and that's what you should really hold on to, because that's what keeps us going. And in the end, when we do finally reach the end, the most important thing is not necessarily the accomplishments that have happened. It's the value that you gained and the impact that you made on others that's going to really make a difference. So thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you found value.
Rachel Griffin. As I sat and listened to Rachel talk, I firmly believed I was watching a TED Talk. I mean, it was just so wonderfully put together and wonderfully executed. I feel like she said everything I wanted to say now. So, but our next speaker, she took my class a year and a half ago or so, and a couple of speeches that she made in class really impressed me. She had motivational speaking sort of character about her, and I even approached her about it. I said, you need to be a motivational speaker, and she said, I've been wanting to talk to you about it. She is a history major. She wants to teach, and then she wants to go into administration in the school system and make some changes. And she's here tonight to talk about believing in the good. And this is Rebecca Wong.
All right, hi everyone, how are we doing today? Well, I'm doing
So
great.
good.
You probably see me around campus, and I look like the happiest girl in the world. I truly am. I have it all put together. And you probably see people around campus that look like me. They have it put together. They're happy, they have the best friends, they're truly thriving in life. I mean, I'm doing great in school. I'm getting good grades, I'm involved, I have the best friends. I'm happy. I'm living a healthy lifestyle. I go to the gym, I get those gains. I get a lot of likes on Instagram. I'm always smiling on my pictures. I'm happy. The best thing about having everything put together is that I don't have to worry. I don't have to hurt, and I don't have to feel pain because I'm always happy. Just like everyone who wears a mask. Hi guys, my name is Rebecca Wong, and I struggle with anxiety. So I may look like that I have everything put together, and I may look like I'm happy, but little does anyone know that this has actually been one of the roughest years of my life because of anxiety. I fell into this huge slump, and no one knew about it because I acted like everything was okay. I was like, you know what, Becca, it's just a bad day, just push it off. You've been in a small slump before and you've gotten yourself out of it, it's okay. But then those bad days started to turn into bad weeks, and then it started to turn into a bad month, and then it started to turn into bad months. My mental health started to get a lot worse, and I started to really worry about everything that was going on in my life. My thoughts were constantly racing, and I was constantly uncomfortable with things, and I was constantly uneased about things, and I couldn't control anything that I was thinking about, and I didn't understand why. I would think to the extreme about things in my life, and I was so scared to be alone at times because of my thoughts. I would get one bad headache, and I'd think the worst, and I'd think, you know, what if it's a brain tumor? I need to go to the emergency room. I had a few panic attacks that I was like, what if it's a heart attack? I need to go to the emergency room. In fact, that I actually took myself to the emergency room twice and to urgent care once because I literally thought something was wrong with me. I was so scared and so full of fear because I couldn't control anything that I was thinking, and I've never been through something like that. As crazy as the situation sounds, it was something that I started to struggle with because my thoughts were getting so bad. It started to get so bad to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I had to work twice as hard just to get up in the morning. I had to work twice as hard to get ready and go to class. I had to work twice as hard to make myself food. I had to work twice as hard to hang out with people. I started to lose a lot of sleep because I couldn't sleep because I was just thinking about things and worrying about things and couldn't control it. I had to work extra hard just to pretend that everything was okay when it wasn't. I really did want to get out of this slump, but I was afraid to go to my friends because I didn't want to annoy them, and I thought I was going to be a burden. I was afraid to go to a counselor because I was told it takes 2 weeks to schedule an appointment to go see a counselor, and you might not even get an appointment. And I was like, what's the point of having counselors here if it takes that long? I was like, it'd be cool if I had a boyfriend to comfort me through this all. But then I was like, who would ever like me if I think this way? Who would ever fall in love with someone who thinks this way? He probably thinks I'm crazy. And for the first time ever in my life, I actually felt hopeless. And I didn't see a light in this situation. It wasn't until I started opening up to my parents about what I was going through. They were the first light in my situation. My parents have always been my biggest supporters in my life, and they've gotten me through a lot of things that I've struggled with. And I wouldn't be the strong, hardworking, independent woman I am without them. They advised me and comforted me through everything, and they gave me a lot of tips and tricks for some coping mechanisms to get through everything. And I was like, dope, I got this. But one of the biggest things that they told me was, you need to have faith. And my middle name is Kalele. It means to have faith in Hawaiian. And they're like, remember your middle name. You need to have faith, and you need to have hope that you're going to be okay. And ever since then, it really stuck to me. I was like, you know what? You're right. I need to see the light in this situation. It was then that I realized how powerful having faith and having hope gets you through the toughest situations. And then I started to feel hopeful again, because to me, having faith and having hope in my tough situation was believing in the good. I finally started opening up to my close friends who helped me through everything. They let me vent to them. They were a shoulder for me to cry on. They took me out, got my mind off of things, and I was really supported by all of them. I then finally had the energy to actually go out, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to this fraternity event, the Pike Firefighters Challenge, where I ended up hanging out with a bunch of girls who are in ZTA, which is a sorority here on campus. And they were really getting along with me, and they're like, you know what, you should come to some of our events for the spring semester. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm down. And then long story short, I got along with everyone, and I got a bid, and I rushed ZTA. And they really helped me out a lot, because in a time when I felt so alone, I felt belonged. I felt like I belonged, and I was in a sisterhood. They supported me through everything. They welcomed me to everything. It made me feel like I was, someone again. And I started to feel this weight lifted off of my shoulders because of the experiences I was going through with ZTA. I realized then that I have to be real with myself. And I have to understand that, yes, I am struggling with something, and sometimes that I can't get through things on my own. I had to get myself out of this slump, so I did, because I believed in the good. I went from looking at myself in the mirror every day, seeing all of my insecurities, seeing that I'm not good enough. Something bad's probably going to happen to you again today. You just have the worst luck. No one's going to fall in love with you. To be like, you know what, Becca, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. You're okay. I started to do things to better my mental health. I finally got to go see a therapist. I started to exercise a lot more, which made me, relieve stress. I started hanging out with friends. I started doing things to make me happy, which is community service, and I also do observations at a high school, which made me really happy too. I started to talk to my professors, which was really important. with what I was going through because with struggling with anxiety, it was really hard for me to do schoolwork because I couldn't focus, and my professors helped me through a lot of things. And once I started to believe in the good, things started to get better for me. I wanted to share this story with you because I completely understand how hard it is to see the light in a really dark situation. But know that having faith and having hope is one of the most powerful things in the world, and it will get you through it. I see people wear masks every day, and I know some of you are wearing one right now, acting like you're okay when it's not. But it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to struggle because, remember, you guys are human. If you're going through something right now, I really hope that you guys can find your light and you guys can believe in your good. Because part of believing in the good is believing in yourself. You have to have the courage to be strong. You have to have the courage to be real like I am with you guys today. You have to have the courage to be vulnerable. You have to have the courage to cry it out, to open up, and to get help when needed. Because no one's life is perfect, and if you're acting like everything is okay when it's not, find your light. I understand that my anxiety works hard, but I work harder. I know that I'm strong, and I will get through this because I believe in my good. Again, part of believing in the good is also being the good. So I want you guys to imagine if you can visibly and physically see what someone was going through right now. Imagine if you can literally see the burdens people are carrying on their shoulders. Don't you think we'd start to treat people differently if you can see what they're going through? Don't you think maybe we'd start to talk to the people in our class instead of just going in, sitting down, and then as soon as class is over, leaving? Don't you think we'd start doing good things for other people? We'd start understanding that, yeah, we may have different opinions on different things, but that doesn't make you any less equal than me. The world would be so much of a better place if we can see what people were going through. But because we can't, we don't worry about it. Now, can everyone please close their eyes? Pretend that you're alone right now. Your mask is completely off. Please raise your hand if you're stressed out, if you're going through something right now, if you have a burden on your shoulder, if you're struggling with anything, no matter how big or small, and keep your hands up. Open your eyes and look around you. What are you going to do about it? Thank you.
I love when people bring the real, and she did that, both emotionally and in the story that she told. And I've known her for 1.5 years now, and I know the things that she's been going through, and thank you for sharing that with this audience. Our next speaker is Connor Davison. Connor took one of my classes over at Fullerton College 6-7 years ago, and then the following semester or 2 semesters later, he took another one of my classes, and we got to know each other. And he has stayed in touch, and he is an HCOM major and a psychology minor. And he's very active on campus. He's a graduating senior. He's graduating with a bachelor's degree in a couple of weeks. Give him a hand for that. And last year, he told a story called The Lonely College Student. And this year, he's bringing that figure back, and he's going to tell more stories about that person in a presentation called A Fragile Heart. Please help me in welcoming Connor Davison.
There comes a time in all of our lives where we find ourselves feeling hopeless. And there comes a time in all of our lives where we find ourselves feeling desperate or lonely or even broken. And if anybody knows what this is like, it's our friend Tyler. Tyler is a sensitive person. He is kind-hearted and passionate about what he studies, and he's also a student here at Cal State Fullerton. But he's not an average college student. He is a lonely college student. That is because Tyler has had his share of rejections and social exclusions, which made him feel rather fragile, and he just wants to be happy. But there are several obstacles that prevent him from doing so. So in order to find out how Tyler can possibly be happy, we must first see how it all began, as I present the story of the one who has a fragile heart. So the story begins when Tyler was in first grade, where he had a speech impediment. He would say his R's and S's incorrectly. So like the word rehearsal, he would say it like, rehearsal. And a group of sixth graders knew of his disorder, and one time he went to the restroom and the group just so happened to be there, and they said to him, "Hey, Tyler." "Hey." And they turned on the water faucet, shh, and said, "What is that?" "What is what?" "What is that coming out of the sink?" "H2O." Okay, first of all, if a first grader knows what H2O means, that's a smart kid and he should skip a grade. I'm just saying. H2O? What else is it called? Water! And as a result of that situation, he constantly got ridiculed for things he had no control over. And as a result of that, he became afraid of what others thought about him and afraid of what others said to him. And in middle school, he constantly got physically bullied because people thought he was a wimp and an easy target. And this made Tyler feel more afraid of how people treated him. And in high school, he was very passionate about skateboarding. He loved to skate. And he also had a small group of friends. And they weren't very nice. And since they all treated Tyler the same, I'm gonna refer to them as the same person. We'll call him Dick, because he was a dick. And as his name implies, he was rather hard on Tyler. Thank you. But in all seriousness, Dick wasn't nice to Tyler. He would constantly say things to him like, "Hey, you know you're a pathetic loser, right?" And the more Dick said it, the more Tyler believed it. And Dick also tried to convince Tyler to give up on what he loves doing, which was skateboarding, because Dick knew that Tyler wasn't good and that he wasn't going to be a professional. And this made Tyler feel even more insecure about his own capabilities. And it got to the point where peer pressure was involved. Dick had marijuana and wanted to have Tyler try smoking weed, but Tyler did not want to smoke weed. And that partly has to do with the fact that his family has a bad history with substance abuse. So he doesn't want to go down that path. And when Tyler was pressured to trying weed, he started crying because he felt very bad about himself. Dick saw that and said, "What the fuck? What the fuck is going on over there? Tyler's being a little bitch. What's new?" And then Tyler snapped. He finally said, "You know what, Dick? Fuck you. Every time I'm hanging out with you, you always make me hate myself. And if you're gonna be like that, then you're not my friend." And as a result of that, Tyler stopped caring about what others thought about him. But it evolved to the point where Tyler was no longer concerned about being associated with people. And this made people not really notice him because he wouldn't put himself into social situations. And when he got into college, he became rather lonely, and he wanted a way to change that. And after trying to find several dates on Tinder and getting rejected by most of them for about a year, he found himself by himself at the Cal State Fullerton Undie Run of all places. And He experienced one of the loneliest nights of his life because he felt completely ostracized and left out from everyone, and he wondered, when the hell am I going to be happy? And then after meeting new people in the fall of 2017 semester, and before the spring 2018 semester began, he matched with a young lady online, and they went to a nice fancy restaurant called Denny's. And thank you, Drew. And, oh God. and at that restaurant, she shared that she only has a small amount of time to be in Southern California because she goes to school in Vermont and her semester, it's about to begin in about a week and a half. So Tyler accepts that, and since she does not go here, he gives her a campus tour. And in the art building area, there's a round metal sculpture with a platform on it. And Tyler's date stands on it, and it begins to tilt over. So Tyler catches her and prevents the thing from falling. And as a result of that romantic gesture, they became almost couple-like until her time to go had arrived. And before she left, they have decided that long distance would not work out and that they would be allowed to see other people. So she leaves, and Tyler sends her off with his spirits held high. And then in the midst of a productive semester, Tyler is feeling lonely and he wants to go out, but he has no one to go out with. And he does live near downtown Fullerton, and that's where the nightlife is at. And he ventures off over there by himself, and he sees a young lady by herself, and he courageously approaches her and says, "Hey, do you know where the cheapest bars are?" She said that she doesn't know, so Tyler said, I think I'm just gonna go home, you know? And she said, "That's what I'm trying to do." "Really? I mean, I may not know you, but I can drive you home. I promise I won't hurt you." So she accepts the offer, he drives her home, and he gets her on social media. But they don't communicate a lot just yet. But after the spring 2018 semester comes to an end, another girl who he matched with online invites him to a nightclub in LA. And Tyler has never really been to a nightclub, so he doesn't really know what he's getting himself into. And he gets there, and he spends money to go there. And when he meets up with her, the music is playing so loud that it's hard for them to hear each other talk. And even though they're right next to each other, she texts him. But Tyler doesn't know what that message says just yet until she whispers in his ear, "Hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, I'll be right back." But she never returns. Tyler looks at his phone, and the message she sent said, "Go find another girl." Tyler's heart is beginning to crack. He just spent a lot of money that night just to get abandoned. And a few weeks later, on Tyler's Instagram story, he posts a picture of the sunset. And the young lady who he drove home responds to it, and he says, "Oh my God," or she says, "Oh my God, that's so gorgeous." And he says, "So are you." Thank you. And then they go on a date the day after. And on their date, she asks him, "So Tyler, tell me, what is your dream in life?" And he says, "My dream is to inspire people." And she likes that. So they continue to hang out, and then they hang out again. But they don't communicate a lot for some reason after that. Until a few weeks later, on her Instagram story, she posts a picture of the poolside, and there's blue text over it. And it said like, "Oh, look at the blue ripples in the water." Tyler thought it said blue nipples. And he jokingly says that to her and gets ignored. And a few days pass, and Tyler reaches out to her and he says, "Hey, is it too late to ask you out again?" And she says, "Yeah, because I think the message you sent to me the other day was so inappropriate that I have to decline somebody like you." Even though Tyler's heart is beginning to crack even more, he says to her, "Hey, look, since I'm probably never gonna see you again, I'm just gonna say that I was actually kind of starting to like you. And if you don't feel that way towards me, then that's okay. And I'm sorry you thought the message was inappropriate, and thank you for not ghosting me." So after that, Tyler goes back to downtown to try to recreate the same luck he had with meeting her. And let me tell you something, people, luck cannot be recreated. And Tyler learns that the hard way because he gets very desperate and he's by himself too. And he approaches nearly every young lady he sees that night and he gets rejected by all of them rather harshly too. He approaches a group of intimidating young ladies and he says, hey, if I do something impressive, can I get one of your numbers? One girl was quick to say, I'm married, despite not having a fucking ring on her finger. Another girl said, you got 10 seconds. So what else can he do other than sing the alphabet backwards? He's like, ZYXWVUTSRQPON MLKJIHGFEDCBA. Thank you. She wasn't impressed. She wasn't impressed, guys. And during that night, Tyler sees a lot of other couples be interpersonally involved with one another, and this made Tyler feel extraordinarily left out because he knew what he was missing out on. And then finally, when a young lady tripped and fell, he reaches his arm out to help her up, and she says, no, go away, you pathetic loser. I'm sorry, I'm kind of lonely tonight, you know? Oh, great. It's at that moment where Tyler was reminded of all of the failures and fuck-ups he has had in the relationships that he has tried to develop in life. And he started to think the worst about life and the worst of himself. And he started to truly believe that he does deserve to feel lonely. And even though he's surrounded by a lot of people in the nightlife area, he starts running. And he's running as fast as he can. And he's bursting in tears as he's running. And he's running home. And when he gets home, he slams his bedroom door shut, leans against the wall, crouches down with his hands over his face. Because after everything he's been through, his fragile little heart cannot take it anymore. Because the only thing on his mind now was he wanted to end his own life. And for the rest of that summer, he withdrew himself because he was now afraid of people. But when the next school year started, which is this school year, he became a leader in a mental health awareness club called Active Minds. He started doing more improv and comedy with a club called Funny People Society and more motivational speaking like this one. Because his name wasn't Tyler, his name was Connor. I am actually the one who has a fragile heart. And the reason why I said my name was Tyler is because I kind of look like a Tyler. I mean, I could probably pass off as one. So Tyler it was. It's that simple. And the reason why I shared this story is because a lot of the things I went through are things that a lot of other people do go through, but they don't talk about it. So I wanted to shed some light and raise awareness on these dark areas. So what is the human heart? The human heart is essentially a symbol for our emotional well-being. And when a person has a fragile heart, that person is more vulnerable to emotional turmoil. But there is a stigma with vulnerability. People who are vulnerable are believed to be weak. However, in order for intimate relationships to develop, that requires a degree of vulnerability because you gotta let people in. And there were times where I was uncertain if I was even allowed to feel what I felt. But I realized that emotions are natural and beautiful parts of human life. It's okay to feel sad after being rejected by someone who you liked. It's okay to feel overwhelmed when things aren't going your way. And it's okay to feel confused about what you want to do in life. And it's okay to feel lonely. But don't you dare ever in your life think that it's okay to believe that you are unlovable, unattractive, or undesirable. Because that's going to unmotivate you and that's going to bring you to a place that's more difficult to get out of. And do you want to know how I dealt with feeling depressed? It's this thing called self-care. Self-care is doing whatever you believe is good for you. If you believe that getting a college degree or finding a date or playing a sport or an instrument or art, if you believe it's good for you, do it. Do what you want to do. Don't do what other people want you to do. Follow your heart, not the hearts of other people, even if you have a fragile heart. And one thing you must never do, because I wanted to do this, because suicide is giving up on life, essentially. So one thing you must never do is never give up. Never give up. Remember why you started. Remember why you started this academic journey. Remember why you interacted with the people you interacted with. Remember why you woke up this morning. That's because you have a goal, you have an ambition, and you have a dream. And one day, you're gonna fulfill this dream, and you're gonna be happy, and those around you are gonna be happy too. But if you give up now, then you won't be able to make your dream become a reality. And I know it's hard, and I know it's difficult, and I know it may seem like the pain is never gonna end. But no matter how dark the nighttime is, it will eventually turn into daylight. And if you have the will to live, then live according to your will. And that's because the times in life where we feel hopeless, and the times in life where we feel desperate or lonely or even broken, are the times in life where we discover who we truly are and what we truly want in life. And many times when bad things happen to us, we think the worst of ourselves. But I'm here to tell you that no matter what happens in life, the world needs you here. There are people in your lives where your existence means a lot to them. Don't do something permanently damaging for something you're temporarily upset for. Don't throw it all away just because some bitch ass doesn't think you're cute or smart enough. And think of all the hardships you went through and where you are now. The fact that you can still smile after going through hell is fucking remarkable. And be all inclusive. Love and accept everyone for who they are. Even the weird people, because they need it. I'm talking from experience. and this also means loving and accepting yourself, even if it's really hard. Because we got that demon and angel on our shoulders, and we need to have compassion for both. Because if we can love even the worst parts about ourselves, then there's nothing that we cannot do. And to be honest, I don't even know what love is. I've never been in love, and nobody's ever been in love with me. But the thing is that you don't need to know what love is in order to love. There's no correct way to love. And whatever you do believe love to be, do that. Because if there is more love in this world, then less people would feel hopeless. If there is more love in this world, then less people would feel desperate. If there is more love in this world, then less people would be lonely. And if there is more love, then less people would be broken. And the moral of the story is that happiness is not only something that we find. Happiness is something that we create. And before I end this speech, I just want to say that I am extremely grateful for every single person who is here tonight, for every person who supported me, for Comm Week 2, and for Jack, for giving me this opportunity to help make my dream of inspiring people come true. And to be honest, I also got some pretty bad news today. I found out after everything I've tried to do, I wanted to get into grad school, and I found out today I did not get in. And that kind of broke my heart, and I didn't know what to do today other than try to give this speech to the best of my ability. And after everything I've been through, despite not getting into grad school right now, at this very moment on stage, regardless of how I felt before it, and regardless of how I'm gonna feel in the future, right here at this exact moment, I'm one happy dude. And I mean that from the bottom of my fragile heart. And as I end my college career, I would say undergrad, but I didn't get into grad school. But I mean, it's not over yet. My journey's not over. As I end this part of my life, as I go on to the next part of my life, I have only one thing left to say, which is thank you. Thank you so much for being here. The end.
Connor Davison. Yeah, we've been talking for the last couple of months preparing, well, actually for the last year preparing for this event. And Connor has been so excited about his presentation, and when I greeted him tonight, he told me the news that he didn't get into grad school, and I wondered how that would, how he would react and how he would present, and I think he did a wonderful job, and everybody tonight had such wonderful messages, and I'm proud to be part of it and to have them be on my team, and we got to do more shit like this. Yes? Yes. I grew up in New Jersey. And we do say Jersey, we don't say Joyzy. I don't know who the fuck says Joyzy, but we say Jersey. And up until I was 11, we lived in a flat. We lived in a second-story apartment, and my grandparents lived downstairs. And then finally, the folks scraped enough money together to buy a nice house. I mean, really, really nice house. Quiet street, quiet little town. Lots of trees, lots of greenery, and this was a two-story house, but really it was like 4 stories because it had a basement, and then it had a first floor with the living room, dining room, kitchen, a sunroom, and a porch, and then it had an upstairs which had 3 bedrooms and the master bath and an attic. But one of the coolest things about this house was in the upstairs bathroom. Behind the door, so once you closed the door to the bathroom and you were in the bathroom, there was a little door, it was probably about yay big, on the wall. And you opened that door, and it was a laundry chute that went all the way down to the basement, into a basket near the laundry room in the basement. So it went right through the first floor. And you'd get undressed to take a shower, and you didn't have to worry about your clothes. You just threw them in the laundry chute, and off it went down into the basement, and then you wrapped a towel around yourself, and off you went to your bedroom to get dressed. It was cool. And it was like one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. It was like, I'd never seen anything like that. I still haven't. The problem with it was, every now and then again, it would get clogged. Either somebody would bunch up the clothes or put too much in it at one time. And then, so we had a yardstick in a closet upstairs. We would go down, and then we had a big pole from the basement. But I was a tinkerer, and I've always been this observant kind of, hey, how does this work, and why does it work the way that it does? And so I started looking at this laundry chute, and I realized that they built it upside down. They built the fucker upside down. And I noticed it right away. Okay, so if I can explain, okay, so it was made out of sheet metal, and it was probably 12, 15 feet in length because it went from the middle of the floor all the way through the first floor down into the basement. And when you put sheet metal together, the way they should have done it, okay, the way they should have done it is they should have made the seams like this, so when the clothes went down, it was smooth. They made the seams like this, so the seam was sticking up. And guess what got stuck in that seam? Buttons. Buttons on shirts. You know the buttons on jeans, the big ass fucking metal button on jeans? All the time. Get stuck in that thing. And I thought, how in the world did they build it this way? How in the world could they put it together without giving it enough thought to build it correctly? And one of the things that I've been saying in my classes and in my presentations and to people is that your thinking is upside down. Your world is upside down. Because our world is a very negative world. And in this day and age with social media, all you're seeing on social media is the best of people, the best, the best makeup and the best dress and the best hair and the best look. And then you compare yourself to that, and you start to have a negative outlook because you don't look like that person. You don't have the right body type. You don't have the right whatever. I mean, we judge so many people on so many different things. There's ageism and sexism and sexual orientation and size and all kinds of different things. So there's a lot of negativity in our society, and we tend to focus on that negativity. We tend to look in the mirror and find everything that's wrong with us And when we assess our lives, we find everything that we're not good at, as opposed to celebrating who we are. And that's why this presentation is called Upside Down, because your thinking is upside down. And you need to turn it right side up. And start believing in yourself. Start believing that you can do it. Start believing that you are worthy. A lot of people have said that. Connor mentioned it. Why would you use your thought process to sabotage your life? Because that's what you're doing. I spoke of worry in my classes this week, and one of the definitions of worry that I kind of like is using your imagination to create something that you do not want. You worry, don't you? What are you worried about? Have you worried about something that's like crazy worry, and then all of a sudden everything's fine? You work it out? What were you so busy spending all of that energy on worrying that it wasn't going to work out? A couple of years ago, one of my students said, I'm worried about the worst possible scenario that could ever happen in every situation. I said, that would drive me nuts. That would absolutely drive me nuts. And I in talking about it, because we were talking about it in class, and in talking about it, I said, I've been coming to this camp. I live in Long Beach, and I've been coming to this campus 2-3 times a week for the past 25 years. And that's a drive. I mean, it's 23 miles or so, 24 miles. If I worried about getting into a car crash every time I got behind the wheel to go home, I'd be miserable. I just turn the radio up and, hey, straight arm it and off I go. So, A, what are you worried about? And B, turn the negative into positive. You got to flip the world upside down. And the way that you do that, and just to give you an example of how your brain works, you have a really cool mechanism on top of your shoulders, and many of you don't understand its power and how wonderful it is. And there was a guy, there was a researcher in the 50s, 60s, I'm not exactly sure, his name was Ames. And he did some really cool stuff with perception. And one of the things that he did was he built a pair of goggles. He wanted to see if he could really screw with his brain. And so he built a pair of goggles that fit tight to his face. So they were light tight, basically, to his face. But he had lenses in them that flipped the world upside down. And it took a couple of weeks, if not a month, for his brain to adjust. Because after a while, his brain turned the world right side up. I saw you like gasping, like, holy shit. To the point where he drove a motor vehicle and took off and landed a plane with the goggles on. He had a light, tight room made for a bed so that he could walk into that room, turn the lights off, take the goggles off so that he could be comfortable to sleep at night, but he wouldn't have any light that would screw up the upside down stuff in his brain. And then in the morning, before he turned the lights on or before he went outside, he put the goggles back on. And he did that for a month. And his brain flipped the world right side up. And then the end of the experiment, he took the goggles off and everything was fucking upside down again. for a couple of weeks. But, But he proved that the brain is malleable and that it's adjustable and you can do that. Now, a couple of ways that you can do that. A lot of different ways that you can do that. Change the words you use. You've been programmed. You've been conditioned. You've been programmed by your family, by your society, by your religion, by your teachers, by all of it, all your belief systems. For some of us, by your politics. And as you are growing up and as you are engaged in that programming, you believe it to be right. Because you're hearing it from people that you look up to and that you find omnipotent, your parents and your extended family and stuff, and you believe it's right. And too often, they confine life into a set of words, and then you believe those words to be true. Like before people give presentations. I don't know if you guys felt this. I was too busy doing shit earlier, but you get this queasy stomach, and you have an elevated heart rate, and you have an elevated respiratory rate, and you got clammy hands, and you need to put a label on that. And what's the label? What do you call it? Nervous. You're nervous. Okay. Your first mistake. That's your first mistake, because that label is a negative label, and that creates a negative spiral. And now all you're thinking is negative thoughts. Oh, I got to do this presentation. I hate giving presentations. This is going to suck. I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to look stupid. I'm going to go up on a word. They're going to judge me. I hate being judged. And you say all of those negative things, and that creates your reality. That's the reality that you've created in your head, or the programming that you've engaged in over the years has created in your head. But when I'm waiting online at Six Flags Magic Mountain to go on a roller coaster, I have an elevated heart rate, I have an elevated respiratory rate, I have an uneasy stomach and clammy hands, and I'm like, yeah! I don't call that nervous. What do I call it? Excited. It's the exact same physiology. So now when I walk into a room to do a presentation, I'm excited. And that creates a positive spiral. This is going to be great. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be able to teach some people. I'm going to be able to inspire some people. And I used to say, they're going to love me. I don't say that anymore. I say they already love me, they just don't know it yet. That's changing a negative world into positivity so that you can believe in yourself and know that because you can't be successful and live a happy life and make millions of dollars if you don't believe in yourself. Do you think Elon Musk is sitting around going, oh, geez, I don't know. Not sure if the whole electricity thing is going to work out. And it's a couple of things. It's the way you think. It's the words that you use, because words are very, very powerful. It's also the people that you put around you. Are the people that you hang out with, are they supportive of who you are and what you do, and do they love you, or are they condescending and do they pick on you? Do they find every little thing wrong with you? Because those people are holding you back and creating that belief in yourself that you're not good enough, that you need to be better, that you need to do this and you need to do that. And yeah, okay, we're not all perfect, and we got things we can work on, but some people, as Tyler pointed out, or Connor, I get the two confused, that kind of programming makes you not believe in yourself, and doesn't make you as successful and as hardworking as you could possibly be. And I have a story that I can relate to you a little bit about. I was in Grand Junction, Colorado, nice little town. I went out there a couple of years ago to do a couple of presentations. I spoke at a high school, and I spoke at a local, they call it a deep tea. It was just a bunch of people that like to talk about philosophy. And then I had a book signing. And I had a wonderful time. I was there for about 3 or 4 days. I stayed with some friends. And on the way home, I had two flights. I had a leg from Grand Junction to Phoenix, and then a leg from Phoenix coming home. And I got on the plane from Grand Junction to Phoenix, and it was a really small plane. It was 2 and 2. Not very many people on this plane, 2 and 2. I had an aisle seat, which thank God. But the guy that was sitting next to me was huge. Was just huge. And he was so big, he came partly into my seat. And so I said hello to him, and I was cordial and everything, and he just looked uncomfortable. I tried to, make him feel less uncomfortable. But I spent most of the flight leaning into the aisle because he was so big. But I had a new phone, and I was playing with my contacts, and I was enjoying that. But in booking the flight, I noticed that there were some first-class seats on the flight from Phoenix to LA. And I looked up the price, and it was like $100. And I went, I had a great weekend, and I sold a couple of books, and why not upgrade to the first class, go in style, $100, easy. So I looked for it online, and they said, try at the gate because there's nothing available online. And I got to the gate, and I said, because I was in the back of the plane. It was like 28A, all the way in the back of the plane against the window. It was three and three. It was 6 across. And at the gate, they said, there's nothing available. And I was like, all right. I'm banished to 28A. So I found my way to the back, and this was a flight that was coming from New York, and it was stopping over in Phoenix and then finding its way to LA. And so I've made my way through people, and the seat next to me had some stuff in it. So, there was somebody sitting there, but they got up to stretch their legs or whatever. And I sat down, and I wasn't terribly disgruntled because it's like, all right, try to put a positive spin on things as much as you can. And this gentleman came in and sat next to me and immediately extended his hand. And we shook and we said hello. And I was reading a book. I think it was a Barbara Kingsolver book. And he goes, oh, what are you reading? And he got really excited about what I was reading. And I told him about it. And he said he liked the title. And we got to talking about books. And I was like, what's this guy all about? And I said, well, if he's so into books, he just came from a book signing. So I grabbed my book and I gave it to him. I wrote a book. He goes, whoa, you wrote a book! And he sat next to me on this flight and he went through every goddamn page. He just slowly paged through methodically. He took his time. He just went through page after page after page, talking about titles, talking about quotations in the beginnings of the paragraphs. And this continued for most of the flight. And we just about got into LA. And he turned to me and he said, I'm a publisher. Can I have your information? Can I have your contact information? I was like, holy shit, if I was sitting in first class, I would have never had this experience. I would have never met this guy. And I've communicated with him a few times, and he's given me some advice in promoting my book and in selling my book. Don't judge a situation before it actually happens, because you don't know what's going to happen. Because it could be magic. It could absolutely be magic. So, let's turn your world upside down, turn it right side up. Start using positive words in your vocabulary. I've had people get a hold of me and say, what do I do when I have negative thoughts? Because you're going to have negative thoughts. My suggestion to them is, for every negative thought that you come up with 3 positive thoughts. And believe in that. And they can be as simple as possible. I got out of bed this morning. I can walk. I mean, I love the quotation. I forget who it was from. Marcus Aurelius or somebody like that, who said, I used to bemoan the fact that I didn't have any shoes until I saw the man with no legs. I mean, there's tons to be grateful for, and we're worried about stupid shit that we're not good enough and looking at negative things rather than looking at things in a positive light. But I can't enforce this enough. You need to put people around you that love you and support you and want you to succeed and love you for it. So I'm going to leave you tonight with, before I do, I want to thank you all for coming again. It's been a really great evening. Thanks for being here and supporting me and my fellows. In the words of the late Nipsey Hussle, and I have to admit, I didn't know who the hell he was until he was killed. And just because I'm not focused on that genre, but the more I looked into who the man was, he was really instrumental in his community. He was really positive. He was really an amazing man. And he made this statement: if the people in your circle are not inspiring, you don't have a circle, you have a cage. So my question to you is, do you have a cage or do you have a circle? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is this on? Let's give them all another round of applause. Calm Week wants to thank all of you for coming out. It's been such an amazing event tonight, and I hope you take, I'm sure you've taken something out of this because this was an amazing speakers. All 4 of them was just amazing. I don't even know what else to say. I'm speechless. So thank you for coming. Please drive safe. Please check out his book up front that he was just talking about, and hope you all have a great night. Thank you.